All right, so continuing on with today's lesson here, we're going to dive right into chapter 4. Now, as I mentioned before, right, every single page that you flip in your book, the very first thing is going to be all the topics that you're going to be learning in chapter 4. So, as you can see, the chapter 4 is one of the biggest chapters in this book, okay? It's not the thickest, but it's definitely a page turner for chapter 4. Okay, it's a lot of content that we're going to be learning. Now, in this case, here you go. It's going to tell you that we need to open expenses QBW, and the password once again is Questiva21. So that's exactly, so if we are, in the midst of our file right now, so this is the company setup. This is chapter 12, right? All we can really do is here just go to file and we're going to click close company, right? Never ever go up to the window and click this X button because you're just going to close out the program. That's not what we want to do. We want to continue using the program but use a different file. So that's exactly what you can do. You're going to go to file and you're going to click on close company. Close company. Okay? So there you go. It's closing up the company, and then you're going to get that same window again where we need to start all over because now the QuickBooks doesn't know what file you want to look for. So that's why we're going to go ahead and do the same thing and click open and restore. And we're going to click on portable file once again. Oh, again, you click on next. It's not going to go, it's going to go exactly from the file that you did open up previously. So in this case, it already found that we're going to be in this file right here where it says of the QuickBooks file. Okay, so QuickBooks 21. Okay, that doesn't look right, so I'm gonna go back to my documents for so documents LBP to this QuickBooks and corporate files. So there you go, that looks right. So therefore, let's see, we're going to go to our file. We're going to locate what we're looking for. So in this case, chapter 4 is looking for expenses. So expenses. So here we are in alphabetical order, expenses 21. All right, once again, we need to find a location to save it. You have to do this every single time. Yes, it's a pain in the butt, but in this case, it's because you're opening and using another working data file. If you're creating company after company after company, you will be ending up saving it into one folder. However, if you're opening one, they want you to have to designate a specific place every single time. So again, you have to go back to this drop-down menu because right now we're in my local C drive. You cannot save anything in here unless you are the admin of the computer and you need to be giving it permission to save it there. Okay, so again, best bet is to either save it on your desktop or go ahead and save it on a in a folder. Okay, so again, I'm going to go back into that folder in the QuickBooks one for the portable files, and I'm going to save it right here in our class, which is for the May 2nd class. Okay, and I'm going to click save. So once again, I'm going to wait till this file is done loading, and then we can start from there. Okay.
How about in the flash drive? Is it a good idea to save it there? Or?
You can save it to the flash drive if you like. That is optional. But however, you want to be very careful with that because you're going to be working on the flash drive at the same time. So therefore, possibilities of corruption is likely to happen because your portable flash drive, right? You can take it out and put it in anytime, right? You can actually bump into it and it will eject the flash drive. So that's, you can do that. It's optional as long as your flash drive is safely in your computer and you have no possibilities to drop your computer or accidentally bump into it. Then that's fine. Okay.
Or lose it?
Yes, correct. Because if you're going to be working on that portable file, portable flash drive while you're working on it, again, anything can happen to your portable flash drive, and you can lose the file while you're working on it. So as a best recommendation, you're better off saving it onto the desktop and then transferring that file into your portable drive afterwards. Okay. But in this case, since we're just going ahead and doing this for now, a lot of these exercises, they're very short. They're not, you don't need to be continuously using that same file because it's only meant so each chapter has its own specific file. So that's why it's definitely okay to be able to do that. But if you're working on a project such as, let's say, I'm building my own company, you should absolutely not 100% never use the flash drive. Okay? You only use the flash drive to save the backup file. Okay? You want to save to your local C drive because all that work and all that information that you put in there, you can lose it at any minute. So you definitely don't want to work on a flash drive if you're working on like your own company file. Okay? So once again, what's the password? It's going to be capital Q U E S T I V A 21. Okay, make sure your cap locks are not on because it is case sensitive. So there you go. I might have my cap locks on. So in this case, I need to retype it in again. So capital Q U E S T I V A 21. Okay, there you go. Do you want to update this file? Yes. Give it a few minutes and we should be able to get ready and go. Okay. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about expenses and our vendors. So here, how do we enter in our expenses? We'll actually talk about that section later on. We're going to actually do that tomorrow. But for now, what I want you to focus on is expenses. Where do they come from? What do they do? Who are you going to be working with when you have expenses? So again, expenses derive from your vendors. Your vendors are your suppliers, people who do jobs for you, your 1099 workers, okay? Anything that you request a service or buy a product from that does not come from you, it comes from someone else. That's how we create our expenses, right? Your landlord, you're not paying yourself for rent. You're paying another person to provide you the service of rent. So that's going to be considered an expense. Expenses are usually entailing things that you need to make purchases for in order to operate the business, okay? So expenses are things that you either get rid of, use, or spend in order to operate a business, okay? So that's why we're going to be talking about how we actually manage those expenses. So here's a first thing that you need to know is that you're going to be utilizing the vendor center. So as we remember in chapter 1, I have mentioned this to you before. What is the vendor center, or what is a center? Okay, and I said that the top centers that you would normally use is going to be your people, right? Your vendor center is one of them. Okay, your vendor center is going to list out all the people that you involve with in the company that provide you a product, service, or whatever it is that they provide you. So in this case, right, there are 3 ways that you can get to the vendor center. Okay, right here on the home page, right? If you go up to here, you can see there's a little tab in blue, and if you put your mouse over it, it says right here, it will take you to the vendor center. So yes, that's way number 1. Your home page is always going to be the first page, but it's not the only way. Okay? Second way you can do this too is you can go up to your vendors on your menu, and first thing that you have up here, I'm on the wrong one, vendors, is your vendor center. Okay? And the third option here is going to go through your icon bar. So your icon bar, if you scroll down on it, you will have vendors. So right here, vendors, and this will take you to the vendor center. So there are 3 ways to get to the vendor center: home page, menu bar, and icon bar. Okay. Now, what happens when I go to the vendor center? So, if you remember from chapter 1, I mentioned that the vendor center is going to hold a lot of information as well as be a place for you to enter in your transactions. So, as you can see here, look at my list of people that I am involved with. They either provide something for my company, they provide a service, a product, or I purchase supplies from, I purchase inventory from, okay? Or they're my 1099 workers. So here you go. Here's a list of all of them, and they are usually in alphabetical order. So as you can see, we got Ace Supply, then we have California Telephone, etc., etc. Right? These are all the people that you that provide services for you. Now, again, every customer that you every vendor, excuse me, that you click on, right on the right side, you have a little, synopsis or a little summary of their information, of their contacts. So again, you get their phone number, you get their addresses, you get other information right here, pretty much summed up in a small little window here. And of course, below that, you'll have the list of all your transactions. We will talk more in depth of how to use the vendor center when we enter in our transactions, but this is the overall place that we can, get a quick overview of all of the vendors that we utilize throughout our entire company. Okay? You can also take a look at what transactions you can involve with that particular vendor. So again, instead of using the search button, right, if you know you are looking for a particular person and you know for a fact that they're a vendor, you could just go to the vendor center, be able to look at your vendors list and be like, aha, it's this person. And when you click on them, you can see all the transactions that's between you and that vendor on the right side. And you can toggle this area, which I'll show you and talk about it, so you can find every single transaction that exists between you and this vendor. So that's the best way to do it. Or let's say I know for a fact I received a bill, I just don't know who. You can go to your transactions and go ahead and click on your bills, and it will give you the list of every single bill that you have. So that's what's really cool here. You can toggle them by date as well. So you can view all of them, or you can view a specific one. Okay. So in this case, boom, you can see all of your transactions here. Okay. Not only can you see your transactions, you can also be able to enter in your new transactions. So if I go ahead and click this new transaction list, I can enter in a bill here. I can pay my bill. I can create a purchase order. I can receive items, and so on and so forth. Okay. So these are the transactions that you see on the home page, right? You have the home page as a graphic depiction. Here it is in list form. And of course, that's what you can do in the vendor center. And you can even add your new vendors this way. You have two options to be able to enter in a vendor. You can do it one at a time, or you can add them in groups. So you can add a bunch of them in at the same time. Okay? So that's what's really cool about the vendor center, is that look at all this information that you can retrieve all in one area. Okay? This is going to be very universal. So if you could do this to a vendor, guess what? You could do this for the customer too. And you can also have that option to do it for the employee as well. They all have a similar formatting. That's how they make it much more easier to make it flexible for individuals to utilize QuickBooks, because everything, once you know how to do one thing, you're going to be able to know how to do everything else, because it's all going to be similar, rinse and repeat. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about how to add a vendor. Okay, we can add a vendor. Again, there's actually only really one way to get to the vendor, to add a vendor. Okay, unfortunately, that's not an option you can do on the menu bar, so you can't add a vendor through the menu bar. Okay, this vendors list is only strictly for doing transactions that involve with a vendor. Okay, but the only way that you're able to do it is by going to the vendor center itself, because you have the option to add the vendor right up here. So that means the 3 ways to get to the vendor center are going to be the same 3 ways that you're going to be able to add a vendor. Okay, but you can't add a vendor through the icon bar, right? But you can go to the vendor center. So that's the ultimate goal, is if you can get to the vendor center, that will be the only way you can enter in a new vendor. Okay. All right, so again, I can choose to either enter one at a time, or I can choose to enter in multiple people at a time. So let me show you this first, but in the book, it just tells you how to do it one at a time. So here's the list of all the vendors. Now, here's what's cool about this. Yes, if you really wanted to, you can even upload a file and it will do everything for you. Okay? Well, that's not the purpose of this class. This isn't to teach you to do the shortcuts. It's to teach you how to do everything one at a time or simultaneously, whatever you want to view it at. But this is for more advanced levels to be able to export or import, in this case, an Excel file that has a list of all your customers, all your vendors, all the information that you need for this. But in this case, you can't enter in. So if I wanted to put all my people in here, you can go ahead and do so by going one at a time. Just enter their name, company name, and so on and so forth. So you can add them all at the same time. You can even use Excel to copy the cells and paste it in here. Okay, and again, you can also import the Excel list as well into your vendors list, and then you would have it all there. So that's the cool thing about that, but that is not what I'm here to teach you. I'm not here to teach you the shortcuts. I'm here to teach you how to enter in a vendor in the first place. Okay? So this will be saved for not another day, but for another class on QuickBooks. Okay? So let's go to new vendor, and we're going to go ahead and click on new vendor. So that's one way to do it. As long as you're in the vendor center, you can just go to the top of the window and click on new vendor. You can also right click anywhere on the vendors list and be able to create a new vendor as well. So new vendor. All right, so those are the 2 ways that you can do it as long as you get into the vendor center. You can either right click anywhere on the list, or you can go up to this top menu here and click on new vendor. So when I do that, then you're going to get this window where you're going to fill it out like a doctor's form, right? All the information as much as possible, which is going to help you later on in the future on how to, insert things a lot more quicker, okay? So the more information about that you have in a particular about a vendor, the much easier and quicker things are going to get filled out in QuickBooks. So in this case, you're going to fill it out exactly like a form. All the information necessary that you need to have for this example. So first thing you're going to start off is the vendor name. In this case, we're in the book, okay? We're going to be entering in Boswell Consulting, okay? That's a company, right? What about the opening balance? In this case, you are strictly not to put anything in this window here. Why? Because if you enter in a balance on here, right? QuickBooks is going to say, oh, you owe Boswell Consulting. That's all they know. They don't know how many bills you will receive. They do not know how many bills you have already paid. They only know one thing, and that you owe them money. So that's where you should never use this feature here. Never add anything in there. Why? Your best bet is to just go ahead and retroactively enter in your transactions. So that's the cool thing about QuickBooks is you can put in past transactions. So things that happened a year ago, things that happened 5 years ago, as long as you can type in the date, or in this case, we don't type in, we select the date, you can put in at almost any transactions at any given time. Okay? But obviously there's rules and regulations to that. It's not recommended. But if you are starting QuickBooks for the first time, never use this feature. You always want to, if you do owe Boswell Consulting, your best bet is to enter in that bill after you've created the profile. Okay? So you leave this one blank. Next one. What is the company name? Well, in this case, what's the difference between the vendor name and the company name? The vendor name is what you're going to have displayed on your vendor list. Okay? The company name is going to be whatever the company is, right? On its profile. So that's the huge difference. So if you have a different vendor name versus the different company name, then that's okay. You definitely can have that, right? I can say that my Boswell Consulting, right, has another second name. But in this case, usually it should be the same as your vendor name because you want to make sure that you don't, make any mistakes there or, confuse the two. So just go ahead and just type it in exactly how you did for the vendor name. Okay, so again, the vendor name is what's going to appear on the actual vendor list. The company name is what's going to show up on the profile. Okay, so Boswell Consulting. Who owns Boswell Consulting? Okay, so first one you got to do is you got to add a title, so Mr. And his name is Stephen Boswell. Okay? Okay, Stephen Boswell. Who is he? He is the owner of Boswell Consulting. Okay? Does he have a main phone number? Yes, he does. It is going to be 510-555-5 or 0305. Okay, it's up to you. You can add the dashes if you'd like. I think I'm gonna add them. So 555-0305. Does he have a work phone number? Yes, he does. It's the same thing except the extension's different, right? So it's 510-555- let's see. 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, no. Sorry. It's 5500. Okay, so 5500. Okay. Does he have a main email? Yes, he does. If you prefer to contact him via email, it's going to be steve@boswellrightnow.us. Okay. Does he have a website? Yes, obviously his email, if his email's at boswellrightnow.us, then his website's also going to be at www.boswellrightnow.us. Okay? Does he have a fax number? It's up to you. Again, the more information, the more you can fill it out. It's not obligated, but in this case, I'm just going to skip the rest because that's all the information you need. Now, notice this. I started filling out all this information here. It's also copied it down here in my address book. So in this case, I have Boswell Consulting, Stephen Boswell, all right? And what is his address? So this is where you're actually going to have to type it into the box. His address is a P.O. box, so a postal service box. Okay? P.O. box, I believe it's 620. Where from? Oakland, California. So Oakland, California, and the postal address is going to be Stephen Boswell. Okay, right now, his address is Oakland, California. P.O. Box 620, Oakland, California, 94610 is the postal service. So there's the postal code. Okay, so therefore now I have it like that. Now, what I need to have a billing address and I need to have a shipping address. That's very, very important that you have because not always a billing address is going to be the same as a shipping address, right? Especially when we go into diving into our customers can have different locations. They can send gifts, right? But in this case, the billing address and the shipping address is the same. However, I can make some changes to it as well. Now, how can I do that without having to type everything in again? You have this copy button here. If I click on this copy button, it's going to ask me, do you want to copy everything over into this section here? It's going to be Oakland, California, 94610, Postal Service, Postal Box 620. So everything looks good, okay? The only thing is I don't need to have the title Boswell Consulting, right? Because if I'm going to be sending mail to the company, it's going to say his name, Stephen Boswell, okay? That's what it should say. So that's what I want to do. I can edit the information here, and I can go ahead and what kind of address is this? It's a shipping address. You could call this. We can call this the business address. Okay, it could be a home address. So I'm going to change it and call this a business address, and I'm going to click OK. So there you go. You got the business address. It is for Stephen Boswell at the P.O. Box 620. So we copied all the information that you had here and transferred over, and I made just a minor fixture by taking out the company name because you want to make sure you ship it to Stephen. Okay? So I'm not done here. So if I click OK, that means I'm done with his profile. On the left column here, you have 5 other things that you have to fill out for the vendor. Now, is it optional? Yes, it is 100% optional because sometimes if you go to the store, right? Let's say when you go to Albertsons, right? Do you really need to know all the information in regards to Albertsons? No. Maybe that was a one-time deal where you just needed milk. And that's all you got to do. You just went to Albertsons and you bought milk. No, you don't need to have the address, phone number, or any of that stuff. Okay? Because that's just a one-time deal. Now, in this case, Stephen Boswell, he's a consulting group, right? He actually consults us, I don't know, for financial consulting. We don't know what his consulting job is, but we just know that he consults for us. He is someone that we use, so we should be able to obtain as much information because this guy is going to come back again to give us some more advice. So in this case, this person is something that, yeah, you should have more detail into. So that's why in this left column here, you got payment options, you got tax options, you even have account setting options and additional info. So in this case, yes, Stephen, we need to fill out as much information as possible, okay? So the next section I'm going to do is I'm going to toggle between the tabs here. So I finished the first one, right? That's it right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next one, which is the payment options, okay? So your payment options is pretty straightforward, right? How do we pay Mr. Stephen Boswell? So in this case, the first thing you're going to see is your account number. This is your account number that you have with Stephen because he's the vendor, okay? So this is your information as the person that's seeking his professional advice, right? This is the account that he's going to be using to charge you on. So therefore, this should be something that is obtained with your company. So in this case, it is 66-112, okay? Next thing is going to be terms. Has Boswell given you terms? In this case, that's why we had the terms list to begin with. So we can figure out if he does give you terms. In this case, he does. He gives me a 2% 10 net 30. Okay? That means he gives me options to take advantage of discounts. Okay? So this is where do we have a credit limit? In this case, no. It's a consulting. There's usually no credit limit. But if you go apply for a store credit, then yes, you'll have a credit limit at that point. Okay? Let's see what else. Price. Okay, so here you got the billing rate. So in this case, nothing there. You can ignore that. And then what is the preferred or what is the name that you're going to use on writing a check? It could be just Boswell Consulting. That's fine. The company name. Okay. Next Next tab here is going to be for tax purposes only. So for any reason that you need to type this in here, this would usually be the employer identification number. So again, as a company, you should have an employer identification number. What that is essentially, it's like a social security number, but this is from the IRS. And what this does is it identifies you as a company. That's what an EIN does. It's for tax purposes only. If you use QuickBooks for taxes, then yes, you should definitely put this information in there because then it just makes it that much easier to file taxes at the end of the year. So in this case, but what I'm going to be putting in here is a social security number. Now that's odd. Why would I put a social security number under a vendor tax ID number? That means this person is an independent contractor. Okay, so that's the number 123-121234, right? If a business is going to be using their personal social security number, that means they are either a 1099 worker and that's it. Okay, that means they are their own company, they are their own individual person, so they choose to use their social security number because for independent contractors, right, they get paid and they're responsible to pay into their own social security. But also, as us to have their social security on record, right, we can fill out the 1099, the 1098, right, which is their tax form for them saying, yes, they completed a job for me. This is what I paid them. So that means this is how much taxes that you're supposed to be taking out from that they're supposed to be taking out from. So that's the purpose of having this. If you have a 1099 worker, you are also responsible for issuing the 1098 form. Okay? So again, and you also need to check mark this that the vendor is eligible for a 1099. Because if this person is using their social security number, you also have to run it through the IRS to ensure that this person truly is an independent contractor, right? Because again, if they use their social security number for any type of business, right, and they're really not a legitimate business, then that's where the IRS can go after them, right? Because it's illegal to state that you're your own business, but you don't have a business license or you're not, you didn't apply to be an independent contractor. Yes, you definitely don't want to mess with IRS when it comes to that. So you want to ensure that you do select that this vendor is eligible for a 1099 worker. Okay. Account settings. What is this for? This is so then every time you type in Boswell Consulting, it's going to automatically assume that this must be an expense. Now, what kind of expense? That's where we can say this is for professional expenses. Now, watch this. When I type in PRO, right, all of a sudden, it's starting to fill in the blank for me. It's saying, are you trying to look for this account? So that's the beauty of QuickBooks is the more information you put in here, check this out. By only me typing the first 3 letters, all of a sudden, it's going to populate for me in a list manner saying, oh, you might be looking for this expense. And that's exactly how QuickBooks works. It saves you more time instead of having to type out everything manually. It does this auto search for you. So in this case, yes, I am looking for professional fees. Okay? So that means every time I receive a bill from Boswell, QuickBooks is going to automatically assume that you visited Stephen for a reason, and that's because you seeked professional fees. Okay, so that's what's cool about that. Okay, last section is going to be additional information. So here you go. What kind of vendor type is this? So a vendor type is basically a means for you to just continue to keep organizing your items. Okay, so in this case, right, I have a vendor type. Vendor types, it's not obligated to have one, but a vendor type just basically further categorizes your vendors into specific categories. So once again, maybe I have a specific group that I purchase for supplies. So right here you have a supplier. Or maybe I have a group of individuals who are 1099 workers, or maybe they're for tax purposes, okay? So in this case, this one I already have it already set up as consultant, okay? Again, you're not obligated to have a vendor type. If you choose to, it's just gonna further organize your ideas, and it will just be able to, for you to be able to run reports on a particular group of people, okay? That's it, okay? And then, of course, what county do they belong to? They belong to Alameda. Okay, Alameda. Okay, there you go. They're from the county of Alameda. Now, let's take a look at this real quick. This county is under a custom field. So this is where chapter 12, the part that I said I was going to skip, this is where I'm going to talk about it now, because again, a custom field can be used for a vendor, a customer, an employee. You can also use it for items as well, but in this case, this book doesn't go into too much detail on how to do that. Okay? But it does give you this aspect right here where you can make custom fields for a vendor, customer, or employee. Now, what are custom fields? Again, this whole entire profile is basic information in regards to a person. Okay? Custom field is for is a place where you can add any additional information in regards to this particular person. What's the purpose of that? I'm going to tell you this. It is to build relationships, especially during business. In business, the most important thing is building your relationships with other people, whether it's your customers, your vendors, or your employees. Because again, if you've heard that terminology, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. That's the purpose of building relationships, because the stronger relationship that you have with Boswell Consultant, again, they can give you discounts. They can give you a lot of benefits. They can, again, the more you know about this person, the more that they feel involved into your company, right? So example, Boswell Consultant, let's say they have an event that they invited you to go to. How did you get an invitation to that event? You talked to Steven. You got to build a relationship with Steven. So that's why he was like, you know what? Why don't you come out to my event? So then you get to meet more other people. It's called networking. That's how building relationships work. It is a, scratch your back, you scratch mine, or a deal. Okay? You trade off services with other people. And that's what you can do when you build your relationships. So for an example, let's go ahead and create a custom field. How do I do that? If you go down to the bottom, you have this Define Fields button. You click on Define Fields, and this is the options that you can have. Okay? You can create anything you want. So let's say I want to know the spouse's name. You already have it on there, right? You have a department, you have a title, you have review date. Okay? What are other things that you can know? You can know about hobbies. Okay? And you could probably know, maybe for a business, you could say, I want to know what the establishment date was. Okay? This is very important because again, it could also be a conversation starter. Hey, Steven, how's your wife blank? Right? So once I create my custom fields, here's what you have to know. You can only create 15 custom fields. Only 15. Each person, so a vendor, a customer, a employee, they can only hold up to 7 custom fields. Hold on. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. 7 plus 7 plus 7 is not 15. It's 21. No, that's not how it works. Custom fields you can use out of the 15. If something like, for example, a spouse's name, you can use that for a customer, a vendor, and an employee. Okay, so that's what you have to do is you have to make sure that when you do create your custom fields, you want to make sure that it can apply to multiple people so you don't waste that one spot. So again, you can only have 15 fields in grand total, and out of those 15, each person, or not each person, so each group of people, so your customers, your vendors, and your employees, right? They all have the 7 that you can choose. So in this case, I have for vendors, I'm going to choose the spouse's name, I'm going to choose hobbies, and I'm going to choose establishment date. So I can click OK. All right, then you can get this window, you're going to click OK. So now my custom field section has now increased. I have the items that I selected right here. So now I can further go ahead and enter in my information. So let's say Stephen Boswell, right? He has a wife and his wife's name is Linda. Okay? Linda Boswell. Okay? So again, when you ever have a conversation with Stephen, you can always say, hey, Stephen, how's your wife Linda? How's she's doing? You know what I understand? And then you guys can keep talking about your significant others and build your relationship there. Okay? And then a great thing about having an establishment date is let's say Stephen Boswell, his business established on May 25th of 2010. Let's just say 2010. That means he's coming up on his 22nd anniversary. So what can you do for there? Oh, I should send Stephen Boswell a anniversary gift. A nice little package saying thank you for your services, right? And especially when they receive that, right? They could be like, oh, wow, thank you. I did not know you knew my establishment date. So there you go. You build your relationship up again. And then next time they can invite you into their 25th anniversary of having a business, or they can do the same thing for you. They can give you a gift for your establishment date. Okay? So that's the thing about building relationships, okay? Hobbies, I don't know. Maybe Stephen likes to go fishing. Okay? So then you can come up to a conversation and say, hey, you like to go fishing? What do you like to use? Where do you go fishing at? Hey, let's go plan a vacation where we can go fishing together. Relationship builders is what these are. Okay? All right. So once I finish that, that's all the options I have, and I can go ahead and click OK. So once you've done that, on the very first thing that's on your list is going to show you highlighted that you just added Boswell Consulting. So once again, when it's highlighted, you can see right here, you have an overview of Boswell Consulting. Who owns it? Mr. Stephen Boswell, right? What's the phone number, right? Phone number's right here, okay? What's the website, email? You have all a quick overview of the information, the contact mostly information right here for Stephen Boswell, okay? You can even further customize it by even adding files, adding documentation. So in this case, right, with this little paperclip icon, you can even attach a photo of his business card. Okay. You can also upload, let's say, documents, right? Let's say, for example, you had a transaction, right? You can add the actual contract in here. So here's the contract number for Stephen Boswell. You can put it in here as well. Okay. And you can edit the information at any given time. So if I use that little pencil icon right there, I can edit the information at any given time. Okay. You can also edit this by just double clicking on it. So double clicking on Boswell Consulting, you can edit the profile that way as well. Okay. And of course, you can also right click on his name and you'd be able to edit the profile. Okay. You can edit the information at any given time. So again, if Stephen, for some reason, he decided to move to a different address sometime in the summer, you can edit the information anytime, whenever you like, as long as you have a profile to edit. Okay? All right. So that is how we add vendors to our vendor center. Okay? Other things I do want to talk about real quick is what if I want to see specific people? If you go to your vendor center at the top of window here, this says active vendors. What does that even mean? So if you go ahead and click that drop down menu, you can categorize your individuals based on you could do it based on custom filters, or you could create a custom filter. You can do vendors with open balances. So right now, I don't owe anything to Stephen Boswell, but if I go ahead and click on this, I owe 2 people right now. So you can use this as a means of a filter, right? You could view all of the vendors, all right? Or you could choose active one. What does that mean if it's active or inactive? So if a vendor, okay, is been with you for X amount of years, but let's say you just stopped having services with this guy. Instead of deleting his profile, which can cause a lot of problems, especially if you use Steven's name in a lot of all the accounts that you use, right? So that's the one dangerous thing that you should never do, is delete anything unless you've never used it, okay? But because if you never used it, then here is the thing. If you have used it, what you can do is, let's say you no longer have any services with Stephen Boswell, and he stopped consulting with you. You can right click them and make this vendor inactive. Okay, so what's that going to do is it doesn't do anything more than hide it. Okay, so it doesn't appear on your active list because he's no longer with you. However, let's say I do want to see just in general everybody, then you're going to see this and you're going to have an X right here. This is to show you that this account is inactive. And of course, you can reactivate them. You just simply either click that X or right click them and you can make them active again. So then again, maybe 10 years later, you're like, okay, let's finally talk to Stephen Boswell and get some more professional advice. So you can go ahead and make them active again. Okay? So that's that right there. Any questions in regards to adding a vendor?
Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, right? Okay. All right. Last 2 sections for today. I know it's right now, it's about 4:35. We'll just spend a couple minutes here. We're not going to go over anything except for what is class tracking and what is job costing, because that's definitely something you do need to know. Class tracking. So what is class tracking? Class tracking is also another way to continue organizing your income and your expenses, okay? Why is it so specific to income or expenses? Because in this case, right, what you're using class tracking is to separate your income and your expenses based on a category. Okay, so all the generated income that you earned and all the money you spent can be separated based on some kind of criteria. So a great example could be a line of business, okay? A department, okay? Another one could be a location, okay? So in this case, for this scenario, imagine photography, right? We have 2 store locations, and that's what we're using class tracking to be able to keep track of all the expenses that I make for the San Jose location versus all my expenses I've made for my Walnut Creek location. Okay, so that's a means that you can keep track of, once again, your income and your expenses to see and measure, right? I can measure to see which store is doing better, which one is profiting, which one am I spending more money on. And that's the purpose of class tracking. You don't need to use it if you don't have any meaningful way to separate your transactions, but again, it's a great way to even look at how your company is progressing. Okay, especially for a line of business, right? We all know who Pepsi Cola is, right? Pepsi Cola, what do they have? They don't just sell soft beverages. They sell water, they sell tea, they sell juice. Okay? So what you can do here is, if you are Pepsi Cola, which line of product is being spent more money on, which one is generating more revenue. So obviously we know for a fact that the soft beverages is the main priority of Pepsi Cola, but they also have a water business. They have a tea business. They have a juice business, okay? They own a lot of other brands out there that are all in the same industry of beverages, right? It's just further broken down based on what they sell. Okay, it's not, you can even do it if you want to based on what kind of soda they sell, right? Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Sierra Mist. Those are all products that they sell, and you can tailor and break it down to that if you really wanted to. Okay? So again, that's just another example of how you can use class tracking. Now, in this case, again, it's already active, but let's say you choose that you don't want to use class tracking, or you do want to use tracking. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to go to your preferences, because it is a preference that you have to toggle in order for you to either use it or not. So you're going to go to your edit preferences. Okay, your edit preferences, here it is. It's going to be an accounting preference. Okay, it's going to be under company. And here under class, are you going to be using class tracking? Yes or no? So right now I do have it on, because in this case, we're using 2 separate locations to keep track of our profits, right? Which store is making more money, and which store am I spending more money on? All right, which one is making a profit, and which one do I need to work more harder on? Okay, so again, that's what class tracking is. So that's how you're able to activate it or inactivate it. Okay, so in this case, it's already on because we're using it for the locations. But if you choose not to have it, you just have to go to edit preferences to accounting, and it's going to be under class right here. Okay, so that's class tracking. Last one for today is going to be job costing. What is a job costing? This one is more so for chapter 2, because you're going to be dealing with your customers, but it's definitely more prevalent and more used in chapter 9. So we'll talk about what job costing does more in depth over there, but I'll just give you a quick overview of what they really are. So when you are dealing with customers, right, and you are assigned a particular job, okay? That's what job costing does, is that, for example, you have a sales representative, right? Mike, I want Mike to do the job for me, not you. Then that's where the job costing is that you assign the customer to the person who's working that job. Okay, so again, we normally actually use it for when we are, again, when you have a particular person doing the job, you can tailor it that way as well. You can also use job costing in a means where, let's say, I am purchasing something for our particular customer, then you can assign that purchase to that individual customer. Okay, so you fill out a custom order, so you know when you're ordering this product, it doesn't just go to the general public, it goes directly to them. And the purpose of doing that is you can also pass along the bill to them when you do job costing. And again, we'll see that more in depth in chapter 9. Okay, so that is it for today. Tomorrow, we're going to actually see how we enter in our transactions by either using the vendor, or how we pay our vendors and things like that. So that's all we're gonna finish up chapter 4 tomorrow. So other than that, we're gonna just stop here for today.